Our next question comes from Luis Santos, who writes, "Hey guys, love your show. Recently, John had said in one video that X-Men 2 was in his top 5 superhero movies, so that got me thinking, what are your guys' top 5 superhero movies and why?"
Amy Rose, will give you the choice. You want to start this one off, or do you want me to start this one off?
It's up to you, my man.
Okay, why don't you lead us off, because I want to hear your list.
All right. So, my favorite comic book film of all time...
No. Start at number 10. Or is number 5?
5.
Yeah, start at number 5.
My fifth favorite comic book film of all time would be X-Men First Class. I loved that film. I thought everything about it was fantastic. Matthew Vaughn's direction, Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I loved watching, the origin story, and sure, it had its flaws like every other film, being a diehard X-Men fan, but they showed the characters the way I wanted them to be shown, and I thought it was a really beautifully shot and great narrated story. Number 4, I have Man of Steel. Loved that film. I thought it was great. My issues were mainly with the script. Visually, I thought Snyder did a wonderful job. I thought Henry Cavill did a great job. All the actors across the board, really proud how they showed our last film of Krypton. But my issues being a writer were with the script. So I'm hoping that Ben Affleck helps shape that as well for the next installment. Number 3, Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. in the role he was born to play. 2 and 3 might have lost a little steam, but I still thought it was a pretty solid trilogy overall. But number 1, it's hard to get better than that. I mean, everything about it was incredible. I loved it. Number 2, The Avengers. Joss Whedon, I love the world he created. You can just tell he's a true fan. I loved seeing some of my favorite Marvel characters together, kicking ass on the big screen. I thought the casting was great. It was such a fun time. I was smiling ear to ear, loved it. And number 1 goes to The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan remains one of my favorite, most visionary filmmakers. The Gotham that he created was so rich and complex and amazing, and he just brought the best out of Christian Bale and all the characters, and I just loved how they showed it. It was just amazing. My honorable mentions go to Thor, X2, and Spider-Man 2. There's so many other amazing films out there that were hard to go, but these are the ones that, for one reason or another, really, really stuck with me. So back to top, because I know you like to do that, John. 5, X-Men First Class. 4, Man of Steel. 3, Iron Man. 2, The Avengers. 1, The Dark Knight. Woo!
A great list, and a list that all of these films are in mine, but I cheated a little. I cheated. There are so many comic book films that I love, because now you're really in my wheelhouse, that I decided to do 10. So
I
would
have done 10.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to make you feel like you had to do 10. So I just decided to do 10 just as a cop-out kind of a thing.
I had 3 honorable mentions, so I kind of did it.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So I'm going to do my top 10. Okay. Starting at number 10 will be Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Now, I just love what they did with this film. I was not looking forward to it. At the time that this film came out, I was really over Michael Cera, but it was a really pleasant surprise. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So number 10 for me is Scott Pilgrim. Number 9 for me is X-Men First Class. They just took one of probably my favorite prequel ever done. This will probably be my favorite prequel ever done. I was still a little iffy on all the stuff with the kids in the film. I thought that was the weak part, but anything that had to do with Xavier and Magneto and Sebastian Shaw, all that stuff was pure gold. So for me, number 9 is X-Men First Class. Number 8 for me is the film that resurrected the comic book genre, which is the original X-Men. Bryan Singer did what everybody thought at that point was just impossible to do, make a really great, publicly palatable, and yet pleasing to comic book fans as well movie. He did it. It came out incredible, and it started this whole avalanche of comic book films. For me, at number 7 is the original Iron Man. Once again, Robert Downey Jr. was such a revelation in this. He really, the charm that he brought, and, director Jon Favreau really knew what he wanted out of Robert Downey Jr., and together they just put together this amazing performance that really carried the film. Number 6 for me is going to be Thor. I saw this movie 8 times in theaters. 8 times I went back to the theater to watch it again and again and again. Kenneth Branagh was the perfect director for that film. He brought such a great narrative, a classic story about a father and sons. I thought it was great. I thought it was funny. The action was great. The visual effects were right on par. So for me, number 6 is Thor. Now getting into the actual question into the top 5. At number 5, I'm going to have Man of Steel. Still my favorite film of the year so far this year. I loved this telling of the story. I love that it was told really more of a storyteller kind of tale rather than a direct narrative. I did like the style of it. I thought Henry Cavill was a magnificent Superman. I love the visual effects. I love the action. I love the way it's just all told. I love the whole Mom Pa Kent thing about it. So for me, number 5 is Man of Steel. At number 4, The Dark Knight. Probably the single best villain we've ever had in a comic book film with Heath Ledger's The Joker. It's not just a comic book movie. It's also a crime thriller at the same time. More a comic book movie than a crime thriller. But it brought several genres into the comic book genre that shows you can mash these together and make it come out great. Number 3 for me is Spider-Man 2. My favorite of all the Spider-Man films, whether it's Sam Raimi's or Mark Webb's. The villain was great. It had so much heart and humanity to it. The action was exciting. It was just everything a comic book film should be. Number 2 for me, which will make number 1 completely anti-dramatic, but number 2 for me is X-Men 2, X-Men United. For a long time, I thought this was the best comic book film ever made. It's just, from a pure comic book fan point of view, it had everything you wanted. It was just... Once again, the action's incredible. The narrative is great. Memorable characters. And they found a way to squeeze in a lot of these auxiliary characters, like a Cyclops and stuff like that. Or not Cyclops, I mean Rasputin. Colossus, not Cyclops. I said Cyclops accidentally. But putting these characters like Colossus and others in there to make, just to please the fans without going too far overboard with the number of characters in the film. For a long time, I thought it was the best comic book movie ever made until last summer, and the Avengers came out. Avengers is one of my favorite films of all time now. Just a pure movie-going experience. I love this film to death. I don't know how many times I've watched it now on Blu-ray, and every time I never cease to giggle and laugh and jump up and down when Hulk starts smashing Loki and whatever. There's so many great memorable scenes, and really what Kevin Feige and Joss Whedon did with this world is just unbelievable when you consider the complexity that went into it. So that's mine. So running down my 10. Number 10, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Number 9, X-Men First Class. Number 8, X-Men. Number 7, Iron Man. Number 6, Thor. Number 5, Man of Steel. Number 4, The Dark Knight. Number 3, Spider-Man 2. Number 2, X-Men 2. And number 1, The Avengers. Aaron, what are some of your favorite comic book films of all time?
This is a really hard question for me, and I don't know the best way to answer it. I know that Man of Steel is in it. I know X-Men First Class is in it, but I have a lot of problems with a lot of X-Men movies because a lot of my characters get destroyed. I love Deadpool. Why did you guys ruin Deadpool? I love Gambit. Why does Gambit always suck, and why doesn't he have an origin movie? I love Cyclops. Why did you kill him?
And make him a wuss in the first place.
Because I have so many problems with X-Men movies, really, just because I really like X-Men. And there's a lot of movies I want to see that I think would be in my top 5 if they ever got made, like the Deadpool movie. But, that's a whole nother topic. But those are the 2 I know would be in it, and I think the others are just kind of rotating in there, and it kind of depends on what mood I'm in.
All right.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.